Greetings and welcome back to the third part of expose of the yoga philosophy, the errors of yoga. Now, there are various schools of thought which are using the word yoga and even yogic practices, and there is considerable confusion for anyone. Suddenly, Vivekananda is using, suddenly, uh, Bhakti Vedanta people are using it. Bhakti Veda, Bhakti Yoga, Karma Yoga. So many people are using the word yoga, and there is considerable confusion. So, in this video, let us discuss, take a survey of all the various Indian spiritual traditions which have yoga in them. Well, commonly associated with physical postures in the modern context, yoga historically signifies a comprehensive path to spiritual development and self realization. This episode, we will survey the concept of yoga across the various major Indian spiritual traditions, highlighting the unique interpretations and practices. Number one, we have the Vedic yoga. The earliest reference to yoga are found in the Vedas, especially the Rig Veda, as far back as 1500 BCE. Even though this period was marked by rituals and hymns dedicated to various deities like storm god, rain god, moon god, that planet, this planet, sun, etc., these proponents of these views of these worship of many gods and nature, natural religion, polytheism, animism, had yoga as a form of a spiritual discipline with the primary purpose of uniting the individual self with the divine, especially through chanting, mantras, and sacrificial rituals. Second, also using meditation and concentration. The Vedas emphasize meditation, dhyana, and concentration, dharana, as means to connect with the divine. What they were using, the type of yoga is mantra yoga, chanting sacred hymns, and invoking the divine presence of spiritual powers. And then meditative practices, early forms of meditation to achieve higher states of consciousness. Because in the Indian system, the soul is different from the person. That is why there are multiple births. There is the same soul which is becoming different persons, even different genders, etc. So the concept of soul is different in Hinduism compared to Christianity and Islam and Judaism. The concept of mind as being part of the soul is seen in Christianity, whereas in Hinduism, the mind is separate and the soul is separate. So you cannot use the mind to solve the problems of the soul. The soul itself has to grow, evolve, attain spiritual growth to a level where it can obtain the knowledge about itself that it is not this person, that it is not the body, it is not the mind, that it is God Himself who is the soul. So when that person makes such reaches that realization, awareness, then he is said to have achieved some level of reaching the higher state of consciousness and liberation, etc. So it's very important to understand this. Next, we go on to Upanishadic Yoga, started composed between 800 to 400 BC, and represent the philosophical mystical teachings that form the basis of Hindu thought. Now Hinduism has dropped worshipping all these, thunder and rain and planets, etc. But still they worship the sun and Saturn, the planet Saturn, etc. They do worship and they have temples, sun temple, and even now they have is gaining in popularity is the temple of Saturn, Saturn, with the ring, yes. So they do that now, but earlier it was only that. Initially, the Vedas, it is only mainly worshipping the sun, the fire, the rain, the thunder, moon, all those things, and personifying them. And this was, this very primitive form of religion, as you can see, gave then around 500, 600, 400 BCE, the Upanishads, we are getting into philosophy. And this is not very, thinking type of logical system of philosophy. It is an intuitive system of philosophy where I said, because the mind is not the soul, identified with the soul has to do the knowing about itself. And therefore, that is the main part of their philosophy. And when for that, to do that, they have to do yoga, is to help the soul to reach the new level of consciousness about itself, that it is not this or that, but it's real realization that it is God Himself. A God or Brahman, not God. God is the Christian word. Brahman itself, ultimate reality. And even there are a lot of concepts which have nothing to do with reality. These are religious ideas, and it should be left in that area. And there is no need to conflict them with truth. Okay, there is no system of knowing it is true or not. These are based on certain assumptions, intuitions. And when we think about it, we know these are faulty assumptions and claims. That's all. Faulty assumptions and false claims and false definitions, oversimplifications, epistemological anarchies, false implications, correlations, connections, etc. As Paul says, false knowledge. So this form of false knowledge based on the intuition as regard to the soul. When you intuit, you are not thinking. Okay, so that is the assumption that when you're intuiting, you are not using the mind. The soul is, doing the work of soul thinking. That's sort of a soul thinking is intuiting for them. The soul is working, gaining knowledge. Okay, so it is that is the intuiting. And all these faulty assumptions are what make up Upanishads and the Upanishadic yoga thinking and ideas and concepts. So from ritual, we are going into the philosophical schools of Hinduism, Vedanta, yoga, etc. mainly Vedanta based on Upanishads. So here we have the concepts of ultimate reality, and then Atman, which is the person or soul. Okay, the definitions are there, which are very, very particular to different Hindu schools and have no connection with what we think and what is there in the Bible or what is there in the Quran. Or these are totally different ways of thinking. Okay, and even you should not even think, because thinking is the activity of the mind, as I said, and the soul you have to intuit, and that is the soul, gaining knowledge, and all such faulty assumptions creating false knowledge and a false system of philosophy. Why I'm telling it's false system? Because it's not true. It has nothing to do with truth or reality. So here in this system, in the Upanishads, main concepts are Brahman and Atman, and how the Atman or the soul can find out that it is not Atman, but it is actually Brahman, which is appearing like Atman. Here the main practice is asanas, physical postures, and meditations, pranayama, breath control, concentration, meditation, and self-realization. That is the soul gaining knowledge. So when they say from ignorance to light knowledge, they are not talking about a real knowledge. They are talking about the soul as a natural state or lower state. It doesn't know it's God. And its soul, through these practices, breath control, dhyana, concentration, meditation, it is activated, awakened, and the Kundalini awakening, and then it goes on, it travels to the crown chakra, where it reaches the highest level of consciousness or knowledge about itself. So when they reach that state, they know, because of the consequence of reaching that state of consciousness, and that higher state of consciousness give them certain information which they think is true or that they are God. And stuffs like that which has nothing to do with reality at all. These are religious ideas based on faulty assumptions, oversimplifications, and ignorance. Next, we come to Bhakti Yoga, or the path of devotion, emerged around the 7th century AD, emphasizing devotion to personal deities of Hindu gods. By then, personal godism has come, and Krishna, mainly Krishna cult, Shiva cult, South India, Murugan worship cult, and the worship of the female principle through various names like Kali, Durga, Amman, etc. All these manifestations of certain ideas. Okay, so that is what they are worshipping as personal gods. And the key concept is devotion or bhakti, or love and surrender to a personal god, such as Vishnu, Shiva, or the goddess. So here again, grace, liberation through divine grace rather than personal effort alone. Again, it's not grace alone. It is that God gives some grace to do something, and then they love or show devotion, more or less like a fan. He is a fan of that God, and he will do a lot of things for that God. Posters, building temples, all these things. So that is a fan club for different Hindu gods. We can say like that, in modern terms. If you don't understand, that's a form of love and surrender. So practices include chanting, singing, which is appreciating that God's qualities, their accomplishments, praising, pujas, rituals, etc. Next we move on to Hatha Yoga, where developed in 9th and 11th century, focus on physical aspects of yoga. And key concept is purification of the body and mind to achieve spiritual awakening. Again, this concept of now they are going to use the body and mind, but they're going to purify it, okay, and make it clean so that they don't accumulate bad karma, so that it doesn't become an obstacle. Okay, next, Kundalini awakening. The dormant spiritual energy within the body is awakened through manipulation of the genitalia, all those things. Here, this present in Tantra. Okay, also Tantra, we will see this same thing. But this is Hatha Yoga, physical postures, all those things which are very famous, popular in the West. It's Hatha Yoga. Mainly asanas, advanced physical postures to balance the body and mind. Pranayama, breath control to harness life energy of prana. These concepts which are not true or made up religious ideas like prana, life force, and the mudras and bandhas, gestures or locks to channel energy. So again, we have a system of understanding the body with chakras, energy centers, prana, etc., which are not seen in the real human body. Okay, these are parts of the soul, which they think is there in each person, but is the person is ignorant of. Okay, so that is where the knowledge, that is what the knowledge they are trying to gain about that soul with all the centers, and that needs to be awakened through the Kundalini awakening. And then we come to Tantra Yoga number 6. Tantra Yoga, emerging around 5th century CE, integrates physical, mental, spiritual practices, certain spiritual liberation. Here, it is a dualistic school, and it is not a school which emphasizes restriction. Okay, yoga alone, it emphasizes both yoga and bhoga, or indulgence, both. Our indulgence as a way of satisfying pleasures and snuffing out the pleasure. So enjoy and get it done with, rather than resisting and loading the willpower. And enjoy it, whatever you want to enjoy, you enjoy, finish it, and then you do the spiritual practice, and there you use the will for spiritual development of the soul. Okay. Again, here you are using the mantra and yantra, sacred sounds, geometric designs, the triangles, stars, all those things used in meditation. You can see those things. Also they use the mandalas, all those things. So rituals also, esoteric rituals awaken and harmonize inner energies, channel the energy, etc. All these things we can see in Tantra. Next we come to Jain Yoga. Here again, Jainism, an ancient Indian religion, is now in a minority, incorporates yoga as a means to achieve liberation and non-violence. Ahimsa is the key concept, and yoga is used to achieve this end of non-violence, to control the senses and live a life of no harm to other life forms, including a worm, not even hurting a worm or a mosquito or a fly and stuff like that. For extreme carefulness, you just they close their mouth, wear a mask, so that you don't inhale a small insect or anything and kill it. Stuff like that. Self-discipline, strict ascetic practices, and strict ethical codes to purify the soul. They also go on a voluntary fast and to death. That is how they die. Many of them on spiritual path in Jainism go on fast, and then they fast until they die. That is part of their religious tradition. Next, meditation techniques to detach from material desires and purify the mind. And tapas, rigorous ascetic practices, austerities, okay, to overcome karmic impurities. I said before, a rigorous, very extreme form of even closing the nose and mouth to even not hurt an insect, not even hurt a worm. Next, we come to Buddhist yoga, the final in the survey, number 8. Historical context, as you know, Buddhism, founded in the 5th century BCE by Siddhartha Gautama, incorporates yoga in its meditation practices. Mindfulness. Satipatthana, developing awareness and mindfulness in daily activities, is one of the key concepts, along with nirvana, the ultimate goal of liberation from the cycle of rebirths due to karma. Practices include vipassana meditation, insightful meditation to understand the nature of reality, metta bhavana, cultivating loving kindness or compassion towards oneself and others. So that is a survey we have done of the different schools of yoga, and all of them, okay, are based on faulty assumptions. All of them are based on wishful thinking, wrong definitions, wrong connections, non sequiturs, factual errors. Okay, so that they are so incoherent that they cannot even make a claim for truth. And that is not their primary concern. Okay, now that we know, these are speculative philosophies, speculations about reality, speculative definitions. Okay, because this intuition based philosophies, all of these are intuition based, because you should not use the mind, because the mind cannot help you to deal with the soul. The soul is different, a psychic person, and the soul has the chakras. Okay, those from the kundalini to the crown chakra, the heart chakra, all these things. So all these are not present in the human body, as we know, but is believed in these philosophical schools, speculative schools, are posited to achieve the higher form of consciousness, because that consciousness, higher form, can intuit something which it cannot intuit in the lower form of consciousness. It's all about this intuition. It is not a logical or objective. You can know, anybody can sit and know. No, it is based on subjective experience, speculation, and intuition. Speculation, intuition, subjectivity. Speculation, intuition, subjectivity. Do not forget that. It is nothing. You cannot just sit and analyze. That is why all this analysis is from the mind, and this will be rejected in their philosophy. Okay, that is, even if you show them all the factual errors, they will still reject it. Okay, it is about intuition, and once you debunk intuition, you debunked all the Indian philosophies in one stroke. Because if intuition cannot lead you to knowledge which is metaphysical, then that epistemology is false, is making tall claims, megalomaniacal, meta-narrative claims, which it cannot intuit. Okay, and there is no way, these are not based on proofs or anything. Okay, so this is the nature of Indian philosophy. And all these things, there may be some, there is a considerable interest because they do not know, they don't understand that it is mere speculation. It is nothing to do with truth. And what all you're going to do there with these philosophies is what Paul called knowledge, falsely so called, because of the inherent contradictions and speculations. It is the phrase in the Holy Bible, which I'm going to use to finish. So avoid all these vain babbling, profanities, and the contradictions of what is falsely called knowledge. The contradictions of what is falsely called knowledge. The speculations of what is falsely called knowledge. The intuitions of what is falsely called knowledge. So thank you for joining. God bless you. Jesus loves you.